All right, guys, so today we are going to be talking about and reiterating my favorite setup on the market, my favorite technical formation, the break and retest. There are multiple reasons why I love taking trades off this technical formation, and I want to go ahead and share them with you today. I went ahead and took a trade using this formation on Square yesterday into today, making about $800, over 100% on this trade, and it was all due to the break and retest, all due to looking at that formation on the longer dated time frames, catching it, and setting up a trade based off that formation. I go ahead and talk about this formation and find these setups as much as I can in my pre-market live stream. So congratulations to everyone that comes to that live stream. We talked about Square this morning, how it could set up on this break and retest, and it was quite a beautiful bounce that we saw today. So today, let's go ahead and talk about how to structure a trade around the break and retest and use my trade on Square as an example. I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, press that like button, subscribe to the channel, and of course, come hang out in the pre-market live streams where we look at these formations and do market analysis every single morning. So guys, before we get into the hindsight analysis and look at Square after the fact, after it bounced off the retest, I want to go ahead and share a clip from this morning's pre-market live stream where we reviewed this break and retest on Square. What did it look like before the fact? What does a break and retest look like before it actually makes the bounce? I want to go ahead and roll a clip from this morning's live stream, and then we will get further into the video. I really like this retest on Square of 130. So you guys can see we talked about this, right? We talked about the previous resistance, and we broke through that resistance. Now, what happens when you do a break of resistance? You usually would like to retest it and turn it into support. So that, I believe, is what Square is trying to do right now. It's a little bit questionable, especially if the market is weak. We might fall back under it, but I am definitely watching to see if Square can hold this 130 area today. That is something I am definitely keeping an eye out for. So right around 130, bring it down to around there. That's where these previous highs are. And that is where I'm looking to see if Square can retest and start to hold. All right, guys, so now that we saw Square from this morning, what it looked like in the morning, how I was charting it out, I want to go ahead and share with you guys how I set up my trade and how it sort of looks like after the fact. So looking at your chart here, this is the 4-hour chart on Square. And we're going to go ahead and just start with a blank canvas here and sort of go through this analysis once again. So the first thing that we can note is that Square was definitely falling most of the beginning of the year. We were having a very sharp fall on this stock. Over the last 2 months, we have started to consolidate. We started to create a channel. Right around 130 to around $100 a share is where we were starting to consolidate. We went from a falling knife to a consolidation period. When you see that, you know that there are buyers sort of consolidating. There are buyers accumulating here at these $100 levels. We know that the trend has changed from a falling knife to a consolidation. So that, in my mind, I'm telling myself, if we get a break of 130, there could be some more upside there. Now, we can see that we had resistance at 130 right here, and we had resistance at 130 right here. And on Friday of last week, we got the break above that 130. Now, me personally, I do not like to chase those breakouts. There is money to be made on the breakout, of course. There was a very big move on Friday, which obviously had opportunity. I like to wait for the previous resistance to prove itself as support. And that is the number one thing with the break and retest. You need to see that previous resistance, which in this case is $130 a share, turn into support, because that is a very bullish thing to see on the market. And in this case, it was very bullish to see that on Square. So we got the break. I don't like to trade the break. Some people do. Me personally, I want to wait for the retest for 130 to prove itself as support. So we can see on Monday of this week, which was yesterday, we pulled back pretty nicely on Square. We pulled back and we came right back to that $130 level. Now, when we pulled back to that 130, the strength started to set in. We started to see buyers hold up at that 130 level. When I spotted that yesterday, when I started to see that strength come in, I wanted to put risk on the table. And I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys how I set up this trade a little further in the video after we go over the technical formation itself. So we can see the pullback. Now, if we go to the 15-minute chart, what we can see from Friday, which is this day, to Monday to today, we can see that right around this 130, we were bouncing off this level. We can see here on Friday, we pushed through and pulled back. This was actually a little smaller break and retest within the chart. The big one, which I like to see, was on Monday. On Monday, we can see that we pulled straight back to the 130 level, and look at the bounce that we saw off that level. That right there, that Monday bounce, when I saw the Friday off 130 and the Monday off 130, that gave me the confidence to say, hey, this looks like a perfect break and retest. That previous resistance from earlier this year is turning into support at $130. And I'm going to go ahead and put some risk on the table here. Now, the number one thing that I love about this setup is it gives you a very easy stop loss, a very easy place to get out if the stock moves lower, because the setup is no longer valid if the stock drops back below $130. If that 130 is no longer acting as support, then I don't want to be in this trade. It's very easy. It makes it very structured, and you don't need to think about whether you want to get out or not. You say, hey, if it's under 130, under my retest level, I am out of this trade no matter what. The setup is no longer there. It is very structured and gives a very easy stop loss. So you guys can see that since I got in, which I will pull up now. So right here, guys, on the Discord chat where I post all of my trades, March 25th, 140 call at $1.94. I got in yesterday at 10:38 a.m. I was looking at the retest level of 130. You can see right here, this is what the chart looked like at the time. If I go ahead and zoom into this, this is what the chart looked like at the time. We pulled right back into that 130, and I started to see us find some buyers at that level. I wanted to get in here because I knew that if we went right back under 130, my risk to reward was fantastic. I get out at 130 with a stop, or I see this thing move back to the upside with a fantastic RR. So you guys can see that is what the trade looked like at the time. I went ahead and got in here yesterday, and I was looking for that 130 retest. I'll go ahead and show you what I did today on it. Right here, guys, I went ahead and closed it for an $803 profit. Here are my exits today at $9.37, $9.40, $9.45, and $9.46 for about $4, right around $5 per contract on average, about 100% gain on this trade. Not so worried about the trade itself, more worried about the technicals and how I set it up. So that was my trade, a very nice trade. And the structure behind this trade was a stop under 130 with a profit target to the upside. I don't have an exact profit target on these moves, but when I see the market sort of working my way, I will obviously start to scale out. I'm never going to get too greedy on this move. The profit target can be off a technical level as well, but in this particular case on Square, I was just looking to see if Square would bounce at all off this 130 retest level. So I scaled out as I saw strength on the stock, not getting greedy, taking my profits along the way higher, and taking a very nice 100% gain on Square. So I hope this makes sense, guys. It was a beautiful break and retest. If we go back to the 4-hour chart, we can see that it was as clear as day. Breakout above a previous resistance, 130 and 130, a pullback right to that level, and we started to find strength on it yesterday. If we go to the 5-minute chart, we can see right around 10 o'clock is where I got into this trade. We saw a very sharp reaction after hitting that 130 level, and that reaction was all I needed to take my trade. If I take a trade there, if I take a trade at that retest level, this is how you set up your risk to reward. Your risk is back below the retest level, right around 130. So my risk at that point was, let's just say, right here around 130. I'll go ahead and turn that red so we can sort of signify that as my risk. And my reward was at least back to the highs. So you can see that this risk to reward is probably just about a 3-4 to 1, and that is something that I will take all the time. The probability is high. The retest level sort of proved itself at 130, and my risk to reward was very high as well. We can see today we just got an incredible move on Square right out of the gates off the retest level, and this is just a formation that I wanted to share with you today, show you guys the break and retest. If we start to see upside on this market, you are going to see break and retest all over the place. Another example that I want to share with you guys today before we wrap up this video on the break and retest is on Facebook. Here on Facebook, we see a very similar trade setup, which we talked about in the pre-market live stream as well. On your charts, you're looking at Facebook on the 4-hour. What we can see here is that Facebook had previous resistance right around this 210 level. We came up to this 210 mid-February and we rejected off of it. On Friday, the same day as Square, we broke above that 210. That's a breakout. I'm not taking the breakout. I'm looking for the retest. So we can see that on Monday, yesterday, we came back and we held this 210 beautifully. We had a little bit of choppiness in the 210, but ultimately we closed the day above that retest level. Very nice. setting up a very nice risk to reward. Your risk is probably below these lows, and your reward is back towards the highs, right? You're looking for the break and retest. That right there is about a 2 or 3 to 1 risk to reward. I'll go ahead and turn this red so we can see that that signifies risk. Your risk, let's say you got in around 210. If you got in around that 210 level, you can see that your risk was down maybe to the pivot lows, and your reward was all the way back up towards the highs, right? That's a high risk to reward and a very easy stop loss. You don't have to think about it. You just have to set up the trade and be willing to take the trade. Of course, a lot of other things need to be taken into consideration, such as position sizing when taking a trade like this. If you can't give it the proper stop loss, then you are over leveraged in the position, right? So getting into a trade like this, you have to make sure your position sizing is also key. That is something that you have to accept. You know what your stop loss is, and you have to make sure that you're not getting in too large where you start to panic before it hits your stop. You still need to let this trade move around a little bit. It's not going to be immediate. But for the most part, what I found with the break and retest is that if previous resistance turns into support, it is a very good trade setup. But you have to focus on the last aspect, the position sizing, making sure you're giving this position some room. But what we can see here on Facebook, you got your push on 210. Today was a beautiful bounce off that retest level. And here is just another fantastic trade setup that we went ahead and caught today. I didn't trade this personally, but we talked about it in the live stream. So congratulations to anyone that took this break and retest right here. So guys, I hope this gives you some insight into one of my favorite trading setups, one of my favorite technical formations to look for on the market, the break and retest. A few takeaways about this formation is number one, it provides a great risk to reward. Number two, it sets up a very easy stop loss. It's not a stop loss that you need to really think about. It's a technical stop loss. It's a very fundamental and very structured trade that you don't need to have emotions in. Put your stop below the pivot low, below the retest level, and get out if the trade no longer works. At your stop loss, the trade should invalidate. You do not want to see a stock continue lower after getting in on a break and retest. You want to see that retest hold. So you put your stop there, very easy stop loss, and it gives you a structured trade idea. The last and final thing that I do love about this setup is that you can turn a break and retest trade into a swing trade. As long as the stock is trading above that retest level, no matter how long it is, you can continue to hold this position. If I went ahead and took square for a month out, 2 months out, I would definitely still be holding this trade. I did not choose to do so on my personal trade, but you can turn this into a fantastic swing trading setup because as long as you are holding above that retest level, you continue to hold your position. So guys, if you enjoyed today's video, if you learned something from it, make sure to go ahead and press the like button down below before you head out. Come hang out in the Discord chat where we talk all day. We trade live during the day. I share all of my trade setups, every trade that I take, winner or loser, and we definitely focus on this retest strategy as well. Come hang out in the pre-market live streams. You do not want to miss those live streams where we go over the market every morning and look at setups that are forming right before the market is opening. So guys, thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.